Hey everybody, my name's Ed. Okay, so another nice day, and we're going to do more random comic book reviews. And for this one, we're going to talk about The Shadow, number 2 from 1986. This was a miniseries that was written and drawn by Howard Chaykin. I remember it being kind of semi-controversial semi-controversial because, as it says here, for mature readers. So it's a little bit more graphically violent. There was a hint of sexuality here and there, and which is pretty normal for Howard Chaykin, but I think it was a little bit more than what people who are normally used to The Shadow were into. And plus, this is kind of like a revamp or reinterpretation of the character, so it doesn't feel like a pulp story. It feels like a modern day adventure story, even though it's supposed to be that same character. So, just to kind of jump in here. So, okay, so we got this opening editorial from Andy Helfer, uh, basically just talking about the magic of comics. We've got a checklist here. What's interesting here is they actually advertise the first issue of Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. This was making a big splash as well. Again, changes in production values for comics, changes in the way they're marketed, how these old classic characters were done. So, all right. So basically, in the former issue of The Shadow, basically the Shadow's friends and acquaintances are being mysteriously bumped off, and Margot Lane and Harry, what was his name? Harry whatchamacallit. Harry whatchamacallit are the last ones left, and then there's Harry's daughter, and then they make it back to Lamont Cranston's old mansion, and then here he is showing up. Everybody else is aged, 30, 40 years, but the Shadow, Lamont Cranston, looks the same. And we're going to get into the whole Lamont Cranston thing in a moment. So basically, he shows up. They're like, well, what the hell's going on? How are you still looking young? And hey, you're a bastard for never talking to us. He says, I'll explain everything to you. Meet my two sons here. So to explain everything, we got to go back to 1922. I was kind of this sort of mercenary for hire. This is actually pretty cool. Careful. It's a pretty cool spread here. But he ends up in Asia, and he's like this kind of pilot for hire mercenary type guy, and he meets up with the real Lamont Cranston, who kind of wants him to fly him and his associates, in and out of the country. All right, the authorities catch up to them. There's a gunfight. All right, one of the engines is damaged. The Shadow tells him, look, we got to dump some of your cargo. He said, I'm not dumping the cargo. And he actually throws out some of his buddies. And this is a pretty cool layout here where we show the kind of crash. They're going to crash into the mountains or whatever. And just the panel-to-panel flow is pretty interesting. If you look at what's going on at the time, even in just mainstream comics, you see guys like Frank Miller and even George Perez to a certain extent, doing the same thing, and other people as well, just playing around with traditional comic book layouts. This was something what Howard Chaykin was really, really known for doing back in his other series, American Flag, which was going on right around the same time. So anyway, the people from the mountains find them. They're in Shambhala, the mystical city of Shambhala, right? Okay, so it's Cranston in the shadows. We think, wow, this crazy city. They're so high tech. This I don't think I ever read. 6 issue deluxe format miniseries, Lords of the Ultra Realm. Doug Munch and Pat Broderick. I never read this. I don't think it made too much of a splash when it came out. But anyway, he learns about, he meets this woman, and she kind of explains to them what's going on. You know, we have this going on in our city, we have that, and we have all these wonderful things here. You know, we are free from all the strife of the outside world. Pretty common trope, you know, in adventure fiction and fantasy fiction and, you know, mythology is, you think about stuff like Atlantis and Shangri-La, and in Marvel Comics you got Wakanda, you got the Great Refuge and all that sort of thing. But okay. Anyway, Cranston is up to some shenanigans. He drugs all the guards, and then he finds our friend here. This is interesting because it's not explicit at all, but he's like, we're going to get more acquainted. And then you see, rip. Okay. So we all know it's kind of suggested or implied that some sort of assault is taking place there. Shadow wakes up. There's a big confrontation. Basically, Cranston coerces him to take them out of the city. He's like, I've got enough money and dope. I'm going to get an army of mercenaries. We're going to come back, and I'm going to ravage this place and take it for all it's worth. Right? Shadow says, no way. And of course, he does, gets rid of Cranston. He saves our young lady. And this is a pretty funny scene here, or an interesting scene here, the way it's written. You saved my life. I owe you I shaved Shambhala too, I'd say. Rudda. What's Rudda? Don't be silly. I owe you. I can repay you, but at home, in front of a fire, with some hot plum brandy, and I'll operate the vehicle if you don't mind. For such a brilliant woman, you're a rather insensitive witch, aren't you? And that's a pretty common, well, that's actually kind of funny thing I just want to touch on. An hour or two ago, this woman was sexually assaulted, but now she's going to repay somebody with, more sex. I mean, I'm not making a big deal out of it or anything like that, but really, that's what happens. Okay, but anyway, even getting back to the way the scene is written, a lot of Howard Chaykin's comics, everybody is very cynical. Even the good guys have a cynical streak or a mean streak, like really sarcastic. A lot of the people come off as, a lot of times not so likable. But anyway, he does go back to the hidden city, and they train him in all their mystical and pseudoscientific ways, right? And so he comes back to the States. So it's 1931, all right? And then this is kind of what we all know about the classic Shadow, right? His allies, the time he's operating from 1939 to 1931 to 1949. And then we cut to the people who are going to be the heavies, which is this old guy, his young model wife, his son. You can't really tell from what's going on here, but it turns out his son is like mentally challenged. And he's got a blackmail scheme going on. Well, look, he's got like a mini nuke that they're going to be doing some shenanigans with. Okay, so that's that for that. Back here we got the story of the Shadow, so kind of a text piece describing how the character went from being the host of a radio show to being a star of his own pulp series and whatnot. Ad for Green Lantern Corps. It doesn't say it here, but this was written by Steve Englehart. Some interesting stuff here concerning Hal Jordan and this character here, this little female character there. All right. And maybe if we talk about this run, we'll discuss that. Okay, ad for next issue Shadow, and ad for DC's science fiction graphic novels, A New Dimension in Storytelling. Marvel was putting out graphic novels at the same time, but the majority of their graphic novels, there was some creator-owned stuff, like I think Walt Simonson did a Star Slammers there, and he did, and what do I want to say? Jim Starlin did some Dreadstar stuff, but after a while, it turned into mostly company-owned characters, out of continuity company-owned characters. I always thought this was a more interesting way to go if you want to expand the audience. These were like adaptations of like famous science fiction novels. So Ray Bradbury, Frederick Pohl, Robert Silverberg, and let's see here. Art by Gene Collin and Neil Mcpherson. I can't see who did the art for the Ray Bradbury stuff. But again, for whatever reason, didn't each page is a vivid, full-color painting reproduced with state-of-the-art printing on high-quality paper. For whatever reason, it just, I don't know, just didn't catch on in a way that you would think it would. But oh well. And I think these are like really out of print. Whenever I see them, I don't see them that often. They're going for a lot. So oh well. Okay, so then that's it. Thank you very much for watching. You guys have a good day.